Hey guys, it's Archon. So as you might have heard, in the upcoming patch 1.0.8, Wizards will be receiving damage buffs to the spells Ray of Frost, Disintegrate, and Arcane Torrent. So last week we tested out Arcane Torrent to see if we could come up with any new viable builds that might compare to the Archon or Critical Mass build. And unfortunately, we couldn't come up with much. There is still an Uber killing build that works pretty well, but nothing new as far as Arcane Torrent builds. This week we tested out Disintegrate and Ray of Frost and we had a little bit better luck. So we found a Disintegrate build that works pretty well, and it's all thanks to Blizzard, the spell, not the company. And the Blizzard spell allows you to use the passive Cold-Blooded and receive a 20% damage buff to all your skills. So that damage buff actually brings the damage up close to what it would be with the Archon build. We tested the DPS with Archon on MP5 Gome and we were able to kill him in 20 seconds. And then with the Disintegrate build here, we were able to kill Gome in 21 seconds. So you might get slightly better damage with Archon, but it's pretty close. And also with the Disintegrate build, you don't have to worry about Archon wearing off. Of course, you always have Disintegrate, and you have a couple extra skill slots you can play around with. Now, there are a couple disadvantages to the Disintegrate build versus the Archon build. Of course, you don't have unlimited arcane power. However, there is some solutions to that I'll tell you about. And of course, you don't have the added defense from Archon, but you can put on some skills to give you more defense or evasion if you want. Now, to solve the arcane power problem, you can either use gear that prevents you from running out of arcane power or change up your skills, but you're probably going to do a combination of both. As for gear, a lower attack speed helps a lot. The slower your attack speed, the slower you'll run out of arcane power. So a two-handed weapon works really well. A Scorn can be really good. However, if you want to get lifesteal, Storms can be quite pricey, so you might want to come up with another two-hander or just forego lifesteal. However, you might be a little squishy without the lifesteal, so it's kind of up to you. Other than having a slow attack speed, you also might want to get a Stone of Jordan or a Mara's Kaleidoscope or a Wizard Hat that has reduced the cost of Disintegrate by up to 5. If you can get 5, get it, but sometimes it's a little expensive, so you might want to try getting 2 pieces with a little bit less, but you can kind of just play around with that. Now, in addition to the gear, you can also change up your skills to give you some more arcane power back. You can see with the build we're using right here, we have Familiar with Arcanaut, which will increase our arcane power regeneration. We have Storm Armor with Power of the Storm, which will reduce the cost of all skills by 3 arcane power. And we have Astral Presence, which will increase our arcane power regeneration as well. Now, there are a few other skills you can put on here if you're still running out of arcane power and you can't take any more off from your gear. You could put on Magic Weapon with Conduit to give you back arcane power when you attack. You could put on Diamond Skin with Prism to reduce the cost of your skills by 7 while Diamond Skin is active. Or if you already have enough from your gear that you're not running out of arcane power, you can go the other way. You could change Familiar out for Spark Flint to add more damage, or you could change Storm Armor out for Energy Armor with Prismatic to add more defense. You really have a lot of choices, but you just want to get to a point where you're staying alive and you're not running out of arcane power. Other than those changes, it's pretty comparable to the Archon build. I wouldn't say it's any more efficient, but it might be a nice change of pace for someone who's already geared out in Archon, especially if you already have a two-hander. You can just throw on 1 piece, maybe 2 that reduce the cost of Disintegrate, and you're good to go. Might just be fun to change out. It's always nice to have a change of pace, and it's definitely a viable build, and that's rare these days to get a build that compares with Archon or CM, so this is looking good for the future. Maybe we'll get some new builds. After trying out the Disintegrate build, we also tried out Ray of Frost. We tried out Ray of Frost with Black Ice, as there was already a Black Ice build that had been used a little bit. Now, Black Ice is nice. What it does is it leaves a spot on the ground after you kill an enemy that does damage to anyone who walks through it. So sometimes it's awesome. You'll pop up Blizzard or Slow Time, put down Ray of Frost, leave spots on the ground, and enemies just march through it, just murdering themselves. And that's great. But sometimes, on like Quillbacks or Soul Rippers, the enemies are just moving around all over the place, and they're not walking through the Black Ice, and you're pretty much just single targeting down all the enemies, and it becomes much slower than Archon or CM. So overall, I don't think the Ray of Frost Black Ice build is viable when compared to the Archon or CM or even Disintegrate builds. However, we did play around a little bit with Sleet Storm. Sleet Storm is a rune on Ray of Frost that does AoE damage all around you. And it does crazy damage now, almost 400% weapon damage. And it might not be very viable solo, because when you're soloing with it, you are quite squishy. However, you kill super fast. It does a ton of damage, especially when you team it up with Slow Time with Time Warp. And so we tested it out with a group of 4. We got a Critical Mass Wizard and a Monk and a Barb to group things up, and it seemed to work really well. So I think with the damage buff to Ray of Frost, Sleet Storm might become a viable build, but only in groups when you have a critical mass wizard or something else to group up and tank the enemies, because you are really fragile. However, you put out a ton of damage, and of course that slow time with time warp will also increase the damage of all your party members. So I'll go ahead and put links in the description to both the Disintegrate and the Sleet Storm build. Go ahead and try them out. With Sleet Storm, you still have to worry about running out of arcane power, but there isn't reduced cost of Ray of Frost on gear. You can only increase crit chance, and so you just have to go slow weapon and use enough skills to get your arcane power back. Very similar to Disintegrate, you just don't have that one extra affix to reduce the cost. So it looks like Blizzard might be adding some new, fairly viable skill builds. These might compare to Archon and CM, which is fun. You guys can try them out. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, please hit that subscribe button. Come on over to the live stream sometime and hang out, and we'll have another video for you soon.